Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. It wasn't just lobbying state leaders for the vet school. Texas Tech leadership has been to Washington and has a new federal partnership that could pay big dividends here for years. And while the nation's fixated on the border, a different view from Texans with a passion for bringing separated families back together. And they've been doing it for years.
From the studios of KMAC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd. Sponsored by Capital Mortgage Services.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Also this week, a working holiday. Congress had the holiday off, so all sorts of delegations have made their way to the border to get a close look at the migrant situation there and the terrible conditions in which many are being held. A lot of folks use this for their own political gain, which can be appalling. But the truth is that's sometimes how things get done. Tuesday was a national day of action for many, with calls to protest how migrants are being treated. In Lubbock, about 20 or so people marched outside the Lubbock office of Jody Arrington, our congressman, about the $4.6 billion aid package the president just signed. Above that, they want the government to close the holding facilities.
If we shifted from politics to public health and then let him know that it's just not acceptable that, to sit there and see people who are being housed in such unsanitary conditions, and he needs to do something, and not this prayer and condolence stuff, but we need action.
Larger protests took place in Washington and Austin and all over the country. But here's the rest of the truth. This is certainly not the first time migrants have been held in questionable conditions. Federal law enforcement is overwhelmed and just isn't built to be a humanitarian aid organization. You'd think outside donations from private folks, compassionate help would be a relief, but federal rules have prevented the Border Patrol and others from taking donations. There is a Texas congressman at least trying to change those rules, and KMAC's Steffi Lee has more.
Over here, we have some toothpaste, like I said, hygiene products, plenty of hygiene products, some shampoo.
Volunteers with Jolt Action tried bringing these bags of items to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Dilley.
We want more resources to be allocated to these communities, and we want to know why these resources we weren't able to donate these resources.
Congressman Chip Roy says he filed the Charitable Donations Freedom Act after seeing reports of donations being turned away at Border Patrol facilities as well.
The purpose of the law change that we've proposed is to, first of all, start a conversation. Second of all, to make sure that there's no federal law barrier to the American people helping anybody, regardless of where we're talking about.
But there is a federal law preventing this.
The Anti-Deficiency Act is put in place to keep federal officials from making commitments on behalf of the government that Congress hasn't authorized and from spending money that Congress hasn't appropriated. In this situation, the officials were reading it to mean that they're not allowed to accept donations of diapers or toothpaste or other things that weren't in place in these facilities.
Ben Rohrbach previously served on the White House's National Security Council. He says he dealt with a similar situation in 2014 when there was a wave of unaccompanied immigrant minors.
I think there's also an administrative burden on Customs and Border Protection to just process all of these donations and figure out which ones can be used and which ones couldn't.
Now, there's a lot of things you're going to go through to figure out what the rules are, how you can make sure stuff is safe, making sure it's appropriate for the facility in question, making sure that it's timely, making sure there's a process for doing it.
In Austin, Steffi Lee, KMAC News.
All right, and we're always happy to be joined by Lubbock Congressman Jody Arrington. Good to see you again, my friend.
Great to be with you.
You know, you made the trip to McAllen with several folks from the GOP Doctors Caucus here recently. What did you find from a humanitarian's perspective? What did you see? What did Homeland Security tell you about what they're dealing with?
Well, they're busting at the seams. The Border Patrol was never designed to administer humanitarian aid, but that's where we find ourselves with 5,000 people crossing the border illegally a day. We're now seeing more families and children than single adults for the first time in history because our asylum policies are being exploited. They know in Central America, if you come here and you bring a child as a passport, you'll get released into the interior of our country. Most of them won't show up for their deportation hearing. That is the mess, and that is the root cause of the mess we find ourselves in. Border Patrol agents, Brian, are spending 60% of their time providing humanitarian aid instead of enforcing the law and securing the border. So this recent funding package that was very difficult to get out of Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats.
50-some days since the president first requested all.
18 requests by the president and the Republican House formally. 60 days approximately, and we had a bipartisan solution out of the Senate, and she kept stuffing that turkey on the House side with partisan initiatives like cutting ICE and cutting the Defense Department. Totally unrelated and hurtful to the folks who are trying to help out, because it's kind of all hands on deck right now. So look, the better judgment prevailed, political pressure prevailed on Nancy Pelosi. We got the aid, and it's sad. I mean, I see those unaccompanied minors, I think about my kids. Sure. And I want to make sure we provide the best, most dignified services to people who we detain. But I more importantly want to cut off the magnets and close the loopholes that are drawing them here and causing them to take this very dangerous trek from Central America to our country. I want them to do it legally. I don't want them to risk their lives, and I don't want us to be in this cycle of insanity. But it's hard to find Democrats who want to actually get at the root causes.
You know, and the president's border policies have been mainly to be a deterrent for those intending to cross illegally, it seems. It seems obvious, though, that's not always working the way he wants it to work. Is there something the administration may be missing as far as the asylum process goes at the border, or Mexican Central American policy ideas, something different that we're not trying yet?
Look, I think we all know on the Republican side, and the president as much as anybody, that the magnets of jobs and services and tax breaks that should be only for those here lawfully are providing a draw, number one. Number two, we have loopholes like the asylum policy that you mentioned and the Flores case, which disallows us to detain children and those accompanied by relatives for more than 20 days. Yeah. So the whole thing's being exploited, and the folks in Central America are very aware of our laws, and until we close those loopholes, it wouldn't matter even if we built the wall. They're going to find a way to get here and avail themselves of all these the services and benefits. And
I saw you had tried to get an amendment in through Ways and Means to cut tax breaks for folks in the country who were here illegally, and everyone kind of looked at each other on this end and went, wait, they get tax breaks even if they're here illegally?
Yeah, in West Texas, they probably looked at each other and said that, but the Democrats on the committee decried it as racist and said I was trying to steal food from the mouths of hungry immigrants. The fact is, my amendment would disallow people who are here unlawfully from benefiting from tax breaks. Again, it's the jobs, it's the services, it's the tax breaks that provide this draw for people to come here. It's an incentive for people to do the wrong thing, which is come here legally as opposed to do it through the legal process. I proposed that, and I had folks, again, disparage that and my motives as racist and anti-immigrant. Listen, it is not compassionate to have all of the magnets that we have in place and the loopholes that bring people here and cause them to take the inordinate risk to come here. You saw the man and his daughter face down, which was heart-wrenching for everybody. Those folks would not be coming here if they knew when they got here that we would only provide the services, benefits, et cetera, to people who waited in line and did it the legal way. I think that would, 80% of this would be solved.
Yeah. I saw Representative Chip Roy was putting a bill together to allow Border Patrol to take private donations for toiletries for those kids and things like that that are not really set up to do at the present time. Would you be on board with that?
Absolutely.
Could that work?
Absolutely. I've talked to Chip since he introduced that, and I even discussed that with the Border Patrol there in McAllen at the Rio Grande Valley sector, and suggested that since we're overwhelmed as a government and since we are providing sort of border enforcement in a role that is really foreign to them in terms of humanitarian aid, let's do what we did after Katrina, and let's have the Red Cross and other nonprofits sort of coordinate the nonprofit sort of volunteer army of compassionate people who can help support these folks, provide not just the physical support, but the mental and emotional counseling that they need. Because I can tell you, they were shocked. You see these unaccompanied minors, they got nobody. And again, I think the most compassionate thing is is to make sure our laws push people into the legal process, or we determine whether they have legitimate asylum claims in their home country. Don't make them have to come over here. 9 out of 10 asylum claims are rejected. And don't make them to come all the way over here to just be rejected and then deported. So there's a lot we can do, but yes, I support that, and I think in many ways the nonprofit sector can do much better and be much more nimble and efficient at providing those services than the government.
We got a lot more to talk about. Can you stay with us for another second?
Absolutely.
More with Jody Arrington coming up in just a bit.
And let's do this week's poll question. Should government health insurance be provided to undocumented immigrants living in the United States? They can't get it through Obamacare, but some of those folks can get insurance in some areas now. Talk to us on our KMAC News Facebook page and on everythinglubbock.com. Click Talking Points. Give us your opinion.